ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. Namaskar my dear friends, this is third video on the Vedas and Upanishads, and the topic of the third video is the Vedic knowledge. The knowledge that was prized most in ancient India by the rishis was known as Vidya. As a result of this Vidya or knowledge of reality, one attains bliss and immortality. It is quite different from ordinary knowledge, which is the product of the intellect. Vidya is a supersensuous and supramental experience. According to the Mundaka Upanishad, one should acquire two forms of knowledge, the apara, lower, and the para, higher. The lower consists of the four Vedas, that is to say, their ritualistic portions, and their six auxiliaries. It deals with the phenomenal universe. The importance of the lower knowledge was admitted by the rishis. It is conducive to a man's material welfare, but its results are impermanent. The higher knowledge is that by which the imperishable substance is known. This imperishable substance was given the name of Brahma by the Indo-Aryan seers. Hence, the higher knowledge was also called Brahma Vidya, the knowledge of Brahma, and this is the knowledge to which was given the general name Upanishad. Brahma Vidya was regarded as the foundation of all other forms of knowledge. Sarva Vidya Pratishtha. Sarva Vidya Pratishtha. Highly treasured by the rishis, it was jealously guarded by them, for they regarded it as more precious than the earth filled with riches. The secret of Brahma could be transmitted only to a qualified disciple. He who meets with a teacher to instruct him obtains the true knowledge. Only the knowledge that is learned from a teacher leads to the highest good. The qualifications of the aspirant have already been described. If these truths have been told to a high-souled person who feels supreme devotion for God and for his Guru as for God, then they will shine forth. Then they will shine forth indeed. The actual experience of Brahma, which is the culmination of the higher knowledge, requires extremely austere disciplines. Only the great renouncers known as Paramhansas, belonging to the highest order of sannyasins, can gain this complete knowledge of Brahma. For Brahma cannot be perceived or comprehended by the senses or by the intellect that depends on them. Only yoga can give a man that subtle depth of understanding by which the supramental truths can be apprehended. The rishis were adept in yoga, that's why their hearts were open to the secrets of creation and the universe. The method of the modern physical sciences for the discovery of truth are based upon a different notion of how to search than that which directed the rishis in their realization of Brahma. A scientist seeks to understand the universe through reason based on the knowledge derived from the sense organs. But the powers of the senses are limited. Therefore, he utilizes the aid of various instruments. With the help of the telescope, he brings a very distant object within the range of his vision. With the help of the microscope, he immensely magnifies a minute object. Similarly, other instruments come to the scientist assistance. The technicians of science are busy day and night inventing new instruments by means of which to strengthen and intensify the powers of the senses. But there exist minute things in the world that cannot be detected even by the most powerful electronic microscope. And the universe is so vast and widespread that its remotest objects would not come within a man's ken, even if the largest telescope known to us were to be magnified a million times and directed toward them. The final secrets of the universe will forever remain unrevealed to physical scientists. For intellect aided by the senses is the only means employed by them in their quest for understanding. The rishis, on the other hand, did not entirely depend upon reason as this world is usually understood. They developed another faculty of understanding which is called bodhi or deeper consciousness. The seeker of Brahma Vidya weakened the subtle power of the mind and senses by means of concentration and self control. By withdrawing the senses from outer objects, he made the scattered mind one pointed. This practice of concentration presently endowed it with keenness, depth, and a new intensity, and as the power of concentration increased, the seeker became aware of deeper phases of existence. Instinct, reason, and intuition or higher consciousness, the three instruments of knowledge, are all differing states of the same mind. Hence, a lower state can be developed into a higher. The means to this end, however, are not external instruments but appropriate disciplines directed within. The Vedic teacher prepared the soil of his disciple's mind before giving him any instruction regarding Dharma. Moreover, there were occasions when the instruction given was not oral. An ancient Sanskrit text says, the teacher explains in silence and the disciple's doubts are resolved. When a pupil approached the preceptor for instruction, often he would be asked to meditate on the problem and seek the answer from within his own self. And so we read in the Taittiriya Upanishad that Bhrigu came to his father Varuna and asked, Revered sir, teach me Dharma. Varuna did not give him a direct reply. He asked the boy to practice meditation and austerities. Bhrigu followed this advice and came to the conclusion that food alone was Dharma. He was asked to meditate again. This time he realized that prana alone was Dharma. His father exhorted him to concentrate further. At last, the nature of Brahma was revealed in Bhirgu's heart and he realized that Brahma is Anandam, bliss absolute. The Upanishads teach the truth unknown to the sense organs regarding living beings, jivas. The universe, Jagat, and God, Ishvara, they describe the nature and attributes of Brahma, its reality and manifestations, its powers and aspects. They also describe the creation, preservation, and ultimate dissolution of the universe and the changes and modifications of nature, Prakriti. Furthermore, the Upanishads deal with the development of the individual soul jiva, its evolution and its destiny, its bondage and its freedom. The relationship between matter and spirit, between God, the universe, and living beings also belongs to the subject matter of Upanishads. These concerns relate to a suprasensuous realm unable to image everyday state of consciousness. Yet the weal and woe and the good and evil of a man depend in a special manner upon his knowledge of these things. For man is rooted in a reality far deeper than is apparent to the senses, just as only a small portion of an iceberg is visible. So only a small portion of man is available to the senses, no matter how they may be magnified. The solution of many of our most vital problems must come, therefore, from reasons beyond the scope of the ordinary faculty of reason. What happens to the soul after the death of the body? If a soul survives the destruction of the body, does it ever return to earth? Is a man responsible for his good and bad action? What is the goal and purpose of human life? Our conduct and work depend upon our answer to these questions, and yet we cannot answer them intelligently with an intellect aided only by the senses. Or again, does God exist? If God just and compassionate, or is he unconcerned about man, regarding him with indifferent eyes? Is God endowed with a form, or is he formless? Has he attributes, or is he attributeless? Is he immanent in the universe, or is he transcendent, or is he both? Is the universe real or unreal? Does it exist outside man's mind, or is it a figment of his imagination? Is the universe beginningless, or has it a beginning? Has the Godhead become the universe, or has he made it like a vase? Or is the universe a mere appearance superimposed upon the Godhead through an inscrutable illusion of some kind, like a mirage upon a desert? And if the universe is not unreal, is it finite or infinite? An inquiring mind longs to find satisfactory answers to these philosophical questions, but there is no human means to satisfy such a longing. Only the knowledge of Brahma can break the fetters of the heart and solve all doubts. This is the Hindu view. That's why the Lord Himself promulgated this knowledge in the world through the rishis. The more a man's intelligence deepens, the more his heart is made pure and his mental horizon widens. The more will he understand and appreciate their teachings as preserved in the Vedas and Upanishads. One can hardly exaggerate the influence of the Vedas upon the individual and collective life of the Hindus. Since the days of their greatness, both the political and the religious life of India have undergone tremendous changes. Many aggressive races have entered the country from outside and been absorbed in this melting pot. Other powerful cultures have retained their individual traits like the ingredients in a huge salad bowl. Foreign conquerors have sought by various means to impose their customs and ideals upon Hindu society. Nevertheless, through all these vicissitudes, the Hindu world as a whole has retained its loyalty to the Vedas and still recognizes them as the highest authority in religious matters. The outer forms of the Hindu religion have certainly changed. Modern Hindus do not perform sacrifices like their ancestors. The worship in the temples has been influenced by the Smritis and the Puranas. Tantra has also left its impression upon the worship in many parts of the country. Yet, underlying all of this, there are certain fundamental truths taught in the Upanishads to which the Hindus have always adhered. It is this flexibility of the Hindu mind in adapting itself to the demands of changing circumstances while remaining true to the immutable ideals of religion that accounts for the marvelous vitality and the enduring character of the spiritual culture of India. Even now, the Vedic rituals are observed at the time of birth, marriage, death, and other important occasions of a man's life. Every Orthodox Hindu belonging to the three upper castes recites 3 times a day during his prayers the same selections from the Vedas which his forebears repeated 5,000 years ago, while his daily obligatory religious devotions are the remnants of similar obligatory sacrifices of the Vedic period. Indian philosophy is divided into two classes, orthodox and heterodox. The orthodox philosophy is again subdivided into 6 groups. These groups are called orthodox because they rest upon the Vedas, not because they accept the idea of a creator God. The Sankhya philosophy, one of the orthodox systems, does not believe in God as the creator of the universe. Jainism and Buddhism, on the other hand, are called unorthodox because they do not accept the Vedas as their authority. Yet they too have incorporated in their systems many of the Vedic doctrines. Thus, the Vedas have influenced every vital phase of Hindu life. The Smritis and other canonical laws which govern the life of a Hindu derive their validity from the Vedas. In Hindu society, the laws that regulate the inheritance of property, adoption of children, and other social, legal, domestic, and religious customs claim to derive their authority from the Vedas. Hindu society has always drawn its power and vision from the spiritual experiences of its ancient seers. Under the crust of the many superstitions of the present day society, the penetrating eye can still discern the shining core of the Vedic wisdom. Yet, this wisdom, the knowledge of Dharma, is not the monopoly of any country, sect, or race. It was developed in a special manner on the banks of the Ganges and the Indus by Indo-Aryan seers. Nevertheless, like Dharma itself, Brahma Vidya is universal. It belongs to all people and all times. It is the universal truth that is the common essence of all religions and faiths. Discussion of Brahma in the Upanishads. The Indo-Aryan thinkers as early as the time of the Rig Veda recognized the eternal unity of existence which holds in its embrace all that has come to be. This unity pervades the universe and yet remains beyond it. All objects, animate and inanimate, are included in it. Gods, men, and subhuman beings are parts of it. As the unchanging reality behind the universe, it was called Brahma by the Hindu philosophers, and as the indestructible spirit in man, it was called Atma. Brahma and Atma, identical in nature, were the first principle, derived from a root which means to expand. The word Brahma denotes the entity to whose greatness, magnitude, or expansion no one, no one can put a limit or measure. The word Atma is used to denote the immutable inner consciousness which experiences gross objects during the waking state, subtle objects during the dream state, and during dreamless sleep when the subject-object relationship ceases to exist and ineffable bliss. This is the unchanging and transcendental consciousness in man, present in his every act of cognition, no matter what the level of or state of the experience. Bhadrayana Vyasa in the Brahma Sutras describes Brahma as that from which proceed the origin, the sustenance, and the dissolution of the universe. He further states that the Vedas are the source of this knowledge of Brahma, and that in Brahma all Vedantic texts find their agreement and harmony. It is Brahma alone that appears as the universe. We read in the Upanishads, all is indeed Brahma. The soul is Brahma. Brahma is consciousness and bliss. There is no multiplicity whatsoever. The two aspects of Brahma. The Upanishads describe Brahma as having two aspects. The one devoid of any qualifying characteristics, Nirvishesha, and the other endowed with qualities, Savishesha. The former is called also the Supreme Brahma, Pra-Brahma, while the latter is called the inferior Brahma, Apara Brahma. The Brihadaranyaka Upanishad describes the two forms as gross and subtle, moral and immortal, limited and unlimited, defined and undefined. When Brahma is said to be devoid of qualifying characteristics, what is meant is that the Supreme Brahma cannot be pointed out or described by any characteristic signs. It is not to be comprehended by means of any attributes or indicative marks. For this reason, it is called the unqualified Nirguna and unconditioned Nirvikalpa Brahma. It is devoid of any limiting adjunct Nirupadhi. The inferior Brahma, on the other hand, can be described by certain characteristic signs and recognized by virtue of its attributes and proper marks. Brahma, states Sankaracharya in his commentary on Brahma Sutras 1 1.2, is apprehended under two forms. In the first place, as qualified by limiting conditions owing to the multiformity of the evolutions of name and form. In the second place, as being the opposite of this, that is to say, as being free from all limiting conditions whatever. Compare, says he, the following passages. For where there is duality, as it were, then one sees another. But when only the self is all this, how should one see another? Where one sees nothing else, hears nothing else, understands nothing else, that is the infinity. Where one sees something else, hears something else, understands something else, that is the finite. The infinite is immortal, the finite immortal. The wise one who, having produced all forms and made all names, sits calling things by their names, who is without parts, without actions, tranquil, faultless, taintless, the highest bridge to immortality, like a fire that has consumed its fuel. Not this, it is neither gross nor minute, neither short nor long. These passages, with many others, declare Brahma to possess two forms, according as it is the object either of knowledge or of ignorance, avidya. A striking passage regarding the attributeless Brahma declares it is neither gross nor minute, neither short nor long, neither redness nor moisture, neither shadow nor darkness, neither air nor akasha, unattached, without savor or odor, without eyes or ears, without vocal organ or mind, non-luminous, without vital force or mouth, without measure and without interior or exterior. The inferior Brahma, with positive attributes on the other hand, has been described as he whose body is spirit, whose form is light, whose thoughts are true, whose nature is like Akasa, from whom all works, all desire, all odors, and all tastes proceed. The Upanishads tend to designate Brahma with attributes by the masculine he, and the attributeless Brahma by the neuter it. But what is the final conclusion of the Upanishads concerning the ultimate nature of Brahma? Is the ultimate Brahma devoid of attributes, or is it endowed with them? Shankaracharya affirms that the purpose of Vedanta is to establish the attributeless Brahma as ultimate reality. He states in his commentary on Brahma Sutras 3, Part 2 and Stanza 11 that though Brahma has been described in the Upanishads as both Nirguna and Saguna, yet the goal of the scriptures is to uphold the unconditioned and attributeless Brahma as the supreme truth and not the other. For the Upanishads everywhere when attempting to describe the ultimate nature of Brahma have spoken of it as free of all attributes. For example, in such passages as the following, which is soundless, intangible, formless, undecaying. Ramanuja, the chief exponent of the qualified non-dualistic school of Vedanta, declares on the other hand that the goal of the scriptures is to demonstrate the ultimate reality of Brahma as endowed with benign qualities only and free from all blemish. Shankaracharya therefore stands as the upholder of an unconditioned and attributeless Brahma, while Ramanuja represents the belief in a Brahma abounding in blessed attributes, which is the true purport of Vedanta. We shall attempt to show in the following pages that Brahma is one and without a second, and that the same Brahma has been described in two ways from 2 points of view. The one may be called the empirical or ordinary Vyavaharika point of view, and the other the real or transcendental Paramarthika. The first is upheld by those who regard the world as real and therefore describe Brahma as its omnipotent and omnipresent creator, sustainer and destroyer, such a Brahma is to be sure Saguna, endowed with attributes. But according to the opposite opinion, the world of names and forms is finally unreal and only Brahma exists. All that is perceived anywhere is Brahma alone, and this Brahma is unconditioned, free from all qualities or attributes. Therefore, there can be in truth no such thing as creator, sustainer, and destroyer of the universe, endowed with omnipotence, omniscience, and other qualities. From this point of view, Brahma is nirguna, Thus, the same indefinable reality is described in two different ways according to the point of view of the perceiver. In order to show that Nirguna Brahma and Saguna Brahma refer essentially to the same reality, the Upanishads sometimes use in the same verse both neuter and masculine gender in connection with Brahma, which otherwise cannot be seen or seized, which is without origin and qualities, without eyes and ears, without hands and feet, which is eternal and omnipresent, all pervading and extremely subtle, which is imperishable and is the source of all beings. The italicized words in the original text are in the neuter gender and the rest are in the masculine. What we shall see is that Brahma, in association with Maya, which is its own inscrutable power, becomes the creator of the universe and is then called Saguna Brahma. It is then also known as the great Lord Maheshwara and Bhagwan, the non-dual consciousness which the knower of truth describes as the reality Tattvam is also Brahma and the Supreme Soul, Paramatma and God Bhagwan. So I end this video here and will continue the Vedas and Upanishads. The next video will start with Nirguna Brahma. Thanks. Namaste my dear friend. Please like, comment and share the video and subscribe the channel. Namaskar.